A diet can dictate the quality of your life and how long you live for. And in my opinion, black people are more so sensitive to certain dietary ills. And this is for various historic reasons. I also believe that there is this gym bro mentality that focuses primarily on a high protein, low carb diet. And in my opinion, from experience as well, over decades of trying these diets, that also comes with its own risks that people don't really pay attention to, because all they are seeking is lean muscle and low fat, right? All aesthetic. So as I cook, and excuse the mess in my kitchen, I'm gonna explain in my humble opinion why black people should consider becoming vegetarian. 10 reasons. Number 1, hypertension, high blood pressure. This is, of course, something that black people are very prone to for reasons that sometimes are hard to explain. You know, some people just have innate conditions that probably relate to how they were living, how their ancestors lived, right? But for whatever reason, black people, people of African descent, are prone to having a high blood pressure. It affects the heart, it affects the kidneys, it affects everything, right? And obviously there's some social economic stress as well that can affect blood pressure. But I think if and when you are prone to high blood pressure, I think it only makes sense to consider routines that will lower blood pressure. This is one thing that a vegetarian diet can affect positively, lowering high blood pressure. And number 2, diabetes. Again, this is something that a lot of people from African descent are very prone to having. And I think many people who, for example, go the high protein route or maybe go keto, is that they believe that by lowering carbs will lower their glucose intake, which is true. But unfortunately, a lot of the meats that we eat when on such a diet, usually highly processed meats, meats that come in packaging, bacon, sausages, burgers, those things also affects or makes you prone to getting diabetes, right? Having wayward insulin. And this is my thing with a lot of people, especially again with this gym bro mentality, is that they don't think further than achieving an aesthetic body, right? If your parents had diabetes, it's very likely that you can get diabetes, And the only main ways that you can resist this is by being non-sedentary, being active, being fit, keeping healthy in the gym or whatnot, but also making sure that your diet allows for this, right? So less processed carbs, white rice, white bread, sweets, bakery stuff, and also processed meats. It's another reason why black people should consider being vegetarian. Number 3, vegetarian diet will also reduce the risk of a cardiovascular disease, heart attack and stuff like that, which is again something that a lot of black people seem to succumb to. Number 4, on the vegetarian diet, there will be reduced inflammation. So this is in relation to things such as arthritis, stiffness in the body, aches, pain and stuff like that. Especially if you lift a lot of weight, you're going to be prone to arthritis. If it runs in the family, it's all prone to arthritis. And the nature of a vegetarian diet, especially if you do it properly with a lot of different vegetables, is that it's very high in alkaline, right? Whereas a protein is more so acidic, which aids or adds to inflammation. Vegetarian diet will reduce inflammation in the body. Number 5, weight management or BMI, right? Now, stereotypically, black people are high on BMI. And a lot of black people call racism, right? And for many athletes, people with high muscle mass, the BMI is not exactly accurate. But I do believe that regardless of whether it's fat or muscle, your mass will still dictate how your organs work, how healthy you are. It's always going to be wise to lower that, or to aim to lower the BMI, right? And again, studies show that vegetarians have a lower BMI and easier weight management. And so I think even though BMI is quite controversial, there's still somewhat of an indication of where you stand when it comes to your health. And yes, black people tend to be at the higher ends of the BMI scales, which is typically obese and overweight. Number 6, a vegetarian diet will also lower the risk of cancer. And this is to do with the nature of vegetables in general, which typically have anti-cancer properties, right? Now, this is especially so for men who we are prone to prostate cancer, right? So I've always known to always try to be very privy to this, especially as someone who had parents who succumbed to the disease, right? So it's very important to have a dietary lifestyle that can provide for anti-cancer properties. 7, better gut health, okay? As someone of Nigerian origin, I can't tell you how many times when there's been a party and stuff like that, after consuming a lot of traditional foods, the next morning, people being in the toilet for up to 30 minutes, if not an hour. You know, people dealing with digestion issues. You know, and it seems strange that we put ourselves through it. You know, we enjoy the taste of these foods, but we know it's going to give us a stomach ache, right? And often these aches are a sign of something basically being wrong in the intestine, you know, in the pancreas, in the stomach. The vegetarian diet just eases these complications. It's easier to digest vegetables, and the sort of highly processed meats that a lot of African people tend to enjoy. You know, the deep dried meats, the deep fried meats, the harder to digest animal organs that we eat, things like shaki, if you're Nigerian. Yeah, I think this is just doing more harm than good. Yeah, I'm thinking cooking and making a video is probably not the best idea, but hey, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and all that good stuff. Number 8, lower estrogen. Okay, and this is something that a lot of people don't really know, especially when they pursue a high protein diet in pursuit of more muscle mass. People seem to think just more muscles mean you must have high testosterone in men, and that must equal also lower estrogen, but that's not how it works. You know, and I find through my own research, you should do your own research, but a lot of these meats contain a lot of estrogenic properties. But the thing with many vegetables is that they have anti-estrogen properties. They flush out the estrogen out of the body. For the scientific process, you need to do your own research. I can't provide scientific information for you, but that's just typically what people reveal that vegetables do. Right? And so I find people who consume a lot of animal fats tend to have a body that also holds a lot of body fat, and that could also be water weight as well, because if you have a higher estrogen, you're going to have a higher water retention rate. So even a lot of people that look muscular, a lot of that is usually water weight, especially if you are a gym goer and you utilize creatine. That's high water retention, right? High water retention is good if you want to look like you have big muscles, but in the long run, that can have adverse effects. But namely, a man having high estrogen usually means bad effects, mental health effects, depression, lethargy, signs of feminization in the body, such as gyno, man boobs, having a lot of fat around the stomach, around the hips, maybe having a big bum, you know. Typical signs that will appear in women will start to appear on men. And I think the culprit in many cases is relying solely and primarily on animal products, consuming animal products. We don't know where these animals are coming from. We don't know what type of animal is being used for our meals. These animals could be disabled and have mental disabilities. We don't know the makeup, the genetic makeup of their bodies. I really do believe that, especially animal protein, is a Pandora's box. We need to ask a lot of questions about what we are eating, especially when it's cheap meats from supermarkets, restaurants, red meats, which is always linked to cancer. And I think this is where I start to side-eye protein, high protein, especially having doing personal examinations of myself. And I'm starting to see a pattern, because I was also of that mentality that, high protein, bro, just get high protein, low carbs and you're good. Again, that's good if you want a lean body, but it's not necessarily good for overall health. Number 9, longevity, lifespan. And unfortunately, I think it's better now. I think black Brits have a higher lifespan in the UK, but typically in Africa, black people have the lowest lifespans in general. Right? And this obviously could be for various socio-economic reasons, but socio-economics is also linked to the availability of food and your dietary intake, right? And so, typically we have the shorter lifespans. We succumb to diseases that could have been treated if we led a healthier lifestyle, right? A lot of men around me dying in their 60s, and this is, a key reason why I'm also fairly passionate about not necessarily the vegetarian diet, but just assessing and taking a step back and stop following fads and being on autopilot with our diet, right? Because often when damage is done in the body, it's often too late to heal, right? We can't go back 10 years and change. Some of us don't have that time, right? So it's very important that every one of us, and this is the purpose of this video, is that people take a step back and actually consider and do the research, and also ask, why is this diet that we are engaging in good for us? Is it solely just to look good? Is it solely just to burn fat? Okay, cool, burning fat is good. Well, that is not a complete sign of health and being healthy. Many people, I come from a fitness background. Many lean people are not healthy. Many of the people who might look good, might look jacked, are not healthy. And I think, especially if you are over the age of 30, 35, you really need to consider the diet and how it affects your body. Also, in terms of lifespan, there is a reason why the Mediterranean diet, which is highly vegetarian, why the people in that region tend to live longer lives, right? And that diet is always heralded as an example of a diet that provides minimal chances of certain diseases, metabolic diseases, based from the diet, right? Lastly, malnutrition. And this is especially for people who succumb to a high protein diet, because typically on that plate of someone with a high protein diet is they just think meat, a bit of sauce, maybe some veg on the side is fine, it's healthy, it's good enough, right? No carbs is good. Well, if that is your diet, you are missing out on critical nutrients like folic acid, and typically when you miss out on these type of nutrients, your gut health is gonna pay. And this is where people start succumbing to cramping and succumb to certain bacteria that will typically be fought off if you had a more wholesome, more complete dietary intake. Introduced whole meal foods, brown rice, brown pasta, oats. Again, people on a high protein diet often neglect all carbs, which is gonna have a devastating effect in the end. And so again, the main reason of this video is to allow us to have a sense of awareness. For myself as well, I'm constantly doing more research, because for the last 15 to 20 years, I've been focused on high protein, especially as an athlete. ketosis, keto, high protein, but I've had to humble myself especially after doing some body checks, body analysis, and have a different take on things. Also, I think that we have a certain relationship towards foods. Right? We have a connection towards certain type of foods, and it's hard to relinquish this connection. It's hard to get rid of the biases that we have towards food and the connections that we have and how we feel about what we eat. And I think what helped me is having a history of fasting, because in my opinion, fasting allowed me to contain food as more so as a source of nutrient, as opposed to having an emotional effect and feeling like I need that food when actually I realized that I didn't need as much food as I thought I needed. So with that being said, I really think that we should question what we think is healthy. What is the long-term purpose? Is it actually healthy, or do we just want to look good and look good in the mirror? I am a proponent of getting blood work done, getting urine samples done. Right? And there's many places, many private places that can do this for you. I say private because there's some people that actually are against getting their blood done. I don't know why, I can't understand why, but there are people who are very skeptic of the health systems, and that's fair enough. But for just being a responsible person, you should be getting yourself checked. Again, especially as we get older, because things are starting to decline. Right, things are getting harder for our bodies, wear and tear and stuff. So I really do promote getting health checks and seeing if the diet that you truly believe in is actually having the effects that you think it's having. Right, you never know its effects unless you actually get these checks done. If you need some ideas, I'll put links in the description. I don't support these people, but they've been helpful in the past, so check it out if you need a first step, or just comment in the comments if you need more help and more advice. But again, this is not really even an advice video. This is just for us to think about what we're doing and how we're doing it, how we're eating, why we're eating in that way, and for what reason. And to also consider the things that affect us health-wise. The diabetes, the high blood pressure, which leads to strokes and heart attacks. How can we avoid these things? Right, so these are 10 reasons why I think black people should consider being vegetarians. Let me know what you think. Excuse the mess again in the back. I just thought this would be a good idea while I'm cooking, when I have it fresh in my head. Do more research, right? Don't rely on this video for any scientific or professional advice. That's not me. But hey, what do you guys think? Let me know. Expect more videos coming up soon.